5 manga where the main character isn't a complete loser that makes you want to cringe? Let's go. The first manga I have for you guys is going to be The Dungeon of Black Company. And honestly, I really love this manga because I identify so much with this main character. And this is kind of like a loose isekai definition. There's a lot of time travel and isekai in here, and I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, but if you read it all, you'll understand. But our main character in modern Japan is pretty loaded. Through some shady deals, he's got a rich penthouse, piles of cash, and a life that anybody would envy. But one day, a magic portal sucks him into this fantasy world. But unlike a lot of people, he's not greeted as like a hero, he doesn't have any cheat skills, and women aren't fawning over him. He immediately gets enslaved by a mining corporation and sent to work. He goes from lounging around all day doing nothing to working almost the entire day in a dangerous mine, mining magic crystals with next to zero pay and terrible conditions. And our main character is stuck at the bottom of the corporate ladder. And desperate to claw his way back into his life of luxury, he starts scheming to outsmart the company and make bank, and quite possibly even take it over. And along the way, he ends up forming an adventure party, his quote-unquote black company, filled with misfits who either hinder or help his get-rich-quick schemes. Now, our main character isn't good at fighting or anything. He's just really smart, selfish, and cunning, and prefers to do things his way. Now, whether they always work out or not is up to you to decide, but he ends up getting a pretty powerful supporting cast. He gets Wanabe, a lizard man who kind of becomes like his partner in crime, who he kind of drags into all of his schemes. He also finds Rim, a tiny dragon lolly, who can transform into a not lolly, so that's pretty cool, who is extremely powerful and must be fed or she will kill him. So, not as cool. And you also have Shia, a badass female hero who starts as a loyal company stooge, but quickly gets tangled up in our main character's plans. And what's an isekai without a trap wizard, Ranga, with a very tragic past. And for the early parts of the manga, it's this ragtag, dysfunctional crew trying to basically pull one over on the company, all while our main character leads it. And the manga from there actually gets pretty interesting. Like, it's not all just about our character trying to get one over on the company. Like, there's definitely some huge turns that come along the way, but I won't spoil anything and I'll save that for you to actually read. So if you want to see a main character that's not a pushover, is willing to screw people over to get what he wants, and doesn't really take shit from anybody, this is definitely the manga for you. The Dungeon of Black Company is hilarious and a very good read. All the characters are very well written and the world building is actually pretty cool. So if you haven't read this or seen the anime, definitely give it a check. Next up is going to be the Isekai Doctor. Now, if you are more of a fan of world building and a main character that uses his brain instead of like swords and magic, then this is definitely for you. Our main character is a kind-hearted Japanese doctor who always puts his patients first. And after getting struck by lightning, so yes, sadly, no Truck-kun, he wakes up in a parallel world filled with beast folk, slimes, chimeras, and other fantasy creatures. Now, this isn't like your standard fantasy lands with like adventurer guilds and stuff like that. It's a place where healing magic monopolizes medicine, and actual medical science is pretty much non-existent. So if you can't use healing magic, you better know someone that can. And to everybody around him, our main character's modern medical knowledge looks like straight up wizardry from a place that can use magic. Now, our main character doesn't have any cheats, he doesn't have any overpowered stats, and only has a small bag of medical supplies from his old life. But he still does whatever he can to treat his patients or treat anybody that he comes across. And because of this, he ends up helping a lot of very powerful people and kinda quickly rising through the ranks of certain kingdoms and catching the eye of some very powerful people. It's not like he has an endless amount of supplies. He has to make do with what he can, with like bandages and drugs, and he even has to pretty much invent certain medicines that have never been seen in this world whatsoever. So if you don't want to read something all about the fighting and you want something more world building and where our main character doesn't have any powers but he's still one of the strongest people alive, or you're just a fan of like doctor shows or anything, you probably will like this one. So make sure to check out the Isekai Doctor. The next manga is definitely going to be the sleeper hit. I didn't think I would nearly like it as much as I did, and out of all the ones on this list, honestly, this one's probably my favorite. It is called The Patchwork Hero, and it starts off very similar to your standard isekai. Our main character was about to get some when he ended up taking a knife to the stomach and getting isekai'd. Okay, standard isekai tropes, whatever. But when he wakes up, he's not himself, he's not in some overpowered body, but he's a zombie. And not just any zombie, the former hero body. He has the zombified body of that world's hero, who ended up dying to the Demon Lord. And it wasn't just him that got reincarnated, but another soul got reincarnated as that world's priestess. So basically, the hero and the priestess died and said, we don't want to be reincarnated anymore, so don't revive us, and their souls ended up taking their place. But everybody else in this world thinks it's the actual hero and the priestess. And our main character just wants to not die a virgin, but unfortunately, because he is a zombie, some parts of his body may or may not be there. I think you can take a wild guess what he's missing. So in order to get those parts back, he needs to defeat the Demon Lord. And now so far you think this is going to be a pretty tongue-in-cheek isekai, it's going to be a comedy, it's going to be fairly lighthearted, but does this manga take a fast turn? It is brutal, gory, and dark. Our main character goes through so much stuff that it makes Subaru from like ReZero look like a joke. This man is getting torn in half on the regular, and he doesn't get to go back in time. He just has to deal with it in his zombie body. And every time the priestess tries to heal him, he goes through an unimaginable pain because he's a zombie. And with knowing all that, our main characters are sent out in this world to defeat the Demon Lord. Now, one thing I like about this manga is it does kind of give you like a very interesting world building. Like the demon army are bad people. Like think Freeran, like they're just really bad. And they're pushing their way across the continent. So it's up to our heroes to gather the strength needed to defeat the Demon Lord. And it's not as easy as it seems. There is a lot of gore, there is a lot of death, and a lot of pain and suffering that goes on. There is still some lightheartedness, and our main character is definitely a badass. Like he's not completely overpowered from the start, like he has to learn to control and use his powers, but he's definitely no punching bag either. He can definitely hold his own to an extent, and the same goes for everybody else that eventually joins his party. So if you want to read an isekai where the main character kind of is relatable in a way, with not just your standard go kill the Demon Lord, but a lot of other things in the background that I don't want to spoil, that are also taking place that are just as important, trust me when I say this, if you want a dark, gritty, gory, something that you will not be able to stop reading, this is the manga for you. Definitely check it out. It's called The Patchwork Hero. The next manga is going to be The Land of Mud, which is a very interesting take on isekais. This is not your standard isekai with overpowered main character and fluffy fantasy world. This one, very similar to a lot of others on this list, is very gritty and dark. And the story starts off with a young girl waking up in a rough underground wasteland known as the Land of Mud. And it's not just some random cave or somewhere underground. It's kind of like purgatory. It's like a realm where the souls of people who end up getting their bodies taken by other worlders go. So if like you get isekai'd into someone's body, that soul would go here while you take their body. And our main character is a princess whose life and body had been snatched away by an isekai'er. And the Land of Mud is a brutal, hopeless place where displaced souls can barely survive, surrounded by muck, despair, and danger. But our main character was a princess, and her royal background definitely makes her stand out from everything else in this horrid landscape. And unlike everybody else that's just there to wallow in their own pity and accept their fate, she's here to fight back. She wants revenge, and she's here to start a rebellion. But what happens when they actually confront their previous body? Well, they end up completely disintegrating and returning to the Land of Mud. So can our princess find a way to start the rebellion, to right the wrongs and get their bodies back? We don't know yet because there's not that many chapters out. I think on the website I was reading on, there's only one chapter available, and I was hooked from the start, so that's why I'm recommending it right now. So if you like isekais, you like main characters that don't take shit from anybody, and you want an interesting take on isekais, like not just your standard, ooh, I'm overpowered, I got a cell phone or whatever, this one is definitely for you, so check out The Land of Mud. The last manga I have for you guys is going to be Musket Girls, Reincarnated Staff Officer, and Battle Line Maidens. So when you think isekai, generally think like magic, swords, things like that. You generally don't think musket infantry. Well, our main character got reincarnated into just that. He got reincarnated into a world that feels an awful lot like 17th century Europe during the classic Age of Exploration, where soldiers fought standing shoulder to shoulder, firing volleys of gunfire in some pretty brutal battles. Our main character is reborn as a commoner second lieutenant in the Empire, a nation that has been beaten down by centuries of war, but still hopes that one day it can reclaim its past glory. Now our main character has sort of an interesting reputation. He is nicknamed the Grim Reaper, and is often blamed for the deaths of countless soldiers under his command. And because of this, he is eventually reassigned to the 6th Special Task Brigade, which is a unit entirely made up of women, and not like battle-hardened special ops women. Most of them are inexperienced and practically just amateur foot soldiers. Now don't think like isekai typical like, oh, bath scenes and stuff like that. That's not what's gonna be happening. This is somewhat realistic. But what's not realistic is our main character, who has this sixth sense who can tell when death is right around the corner, which helps aid him in not only his survival, but also the people following him. And the story progresses from there, with our main character training this brigade, teaching them how to fight and how to survive, and going from battle to battle with different tactics, all while people above him are slowly scheming in the background and moving chess pieces around to get what they want. So if you are a huge fan of isekais and you like main characters that are pretty intelligent at what they do, this is definitely a manga for you. Especially if you like that musket era type of warfare and you're kind of a history buff, you will definitely enjoy this manga, so make sure to check it out.